Today I'm talking grains of truth. What do I mean by that? Well, grains are one of those things that is a very kind of funny issue. This is some spelt kernels. And what I want to talk to you about is helping us understand our relationship to grains. Now, if you actually look at how the plant is grown, or if you ever know someone who's grown up on a wheat field, or maybe you've grown up on a farm and you have access to a wheat field, kids would actually chew on a blade of wheat and it would turn into like this gummy substance that literally could last for an afternoon, like gum. So it really wasn't a food that we would naturally go to, because if you look at the grains and how they're grown, you have this external husk. It's called the ectosperm or ectoplasm, and essentially it is inedible by humans. Great for animals like cows and horses who have these, massive teeth and jaws that can actually break through it. It's not irritating. But for a human, if you've ever even had like a serve of porridge and you get one bit of husk in it, it just ruins the experience. It's kind of like having dirt in a salad, right? It's a terrible feeling. Grains are protected by that ectoplasm, and if you were to consume it in nature, you would have to first peel each individual layer. Now, man realized that this could give them a lot of energy. And another thing that happened with grains is that you could store it for long periods of time. It would then be able to be used in large amounts to feed lots of people and get them powering through the day, which was great in a time when they were building pyramids and people were working super hard. But today we sit at desks. Very few of us work the equivalent, physically as someone did tending the farm, the field all day, pulling, bending, moving things, heavy objects, that kind of thing. And so what's happened now is that most grains have opiates in it. Okay, that's an addictive thing. And the more we process a grain, the further it is away from nature, the more addictive it becomes. And we've developed this palate and this taste for it. So now we're eating something that probably wasn't meant for us in nature to begin with. And we're not only eating volumes that we probably wouldn't have gathered ourselves. Imagine how much it would take for you effort-wise to gather all those grains and then mill them and then make them into whatever it is you're actually making that you use to make flours from the grains. We just probably wouldn't consume that much, and if we did, we'd be working off the equivalent or more of the effort required to actually obtain that. That's consumption concept. Would be eaten very differently if we had to source these things in nature. So now we've got the situation where we're eating a grain we probably weren't meant to eat. We're eating it in amounts we probably weren't meant to be eating it, and now we're eating it in forms that not only could we not replicate it in nature, that we even, you have to have complex machinery. And we're breaking it down every step away. It's further away from nature, and it has properties in it that make it hard for the human body to break it down. And the further away it is, if you look at a cross section of a gut, when you have highly refined white flour going through it, it's like forming glue and goo, and it's moving through the gut. And it's mowing down the villi in the gut that increase the surface area of the gut that enable you to get nutrient absorption. So all kinds of things are happening that when it comes to having, your blood sugar spiked, this, can spike it just as much. The white flour can spike it just as much as white sugar and can create new problems in the body. So if we're looking at return to food and sweet freedom as a philosophy to kind of get back to, when you start to understand how much of it we would actually consume if we had to source it ourselves, that's a way of actually modifying our relationship and our consumption of the grains. And then we start to really feel what this feels like in our body beyond the opiate response, the addictive response, and understand that after we consumed it, how do we feel after we've eaten it? When we go to bed at night, we get a bloated tummy, do we wake up in the morning with kind of a little bit of a hazy kind of hangover? I had some pizza recently and I woke up with this kind of, this floury grain kind of hangover. Didn't feel my normal kind of vibrant self bouncing out of bed. So the grains of truth here are, we need to start to develop a more critical thinking with how it is that we're eating. It's not just enough that it's a natural food, because not everything in nature is designed for human beings to eat. We haven't adapted to eat everything. We're just clever enough to learn how to play with it. And if you want sweet freedom, it's not just a matter of cutting out the sweets, but understanding that there are things in nature that are natural, that can be processed, that don't taste sweet, that can spike our blood sugar just as much as refined sugar.